Hey guys, this is Rue from Rue TV, and if you didn't know, you are watching Jammin' Music Man. So don't even think about changing that channel. Don't even come close to picking up that remote. Well, it wouldn't be a remote, it's the internet. It's like keyboard or I don't touch them. Keep it here on Jammin' Music Man, my favorite channel on YouTube.
What's up, guys? It's me, Jammin' Music Man, and welcome to my top 5 wrestling Blu-ray DVD picks for the month of March 2024, where I recommend you guys wrestling Blu-rays or DVDs that you guys should have in your collection. And these Blu-rays and DVDs can range from a certain wrestler to a certain promotion to any decade. If you're a wrestling fan, you would most definitely want to have these in your collection. So, enough of the talk. Let's get this video started. Alright, you guys, this next pick I have for you guys is one of my favorite early years of Ring of Honor shows. I'm taking you guys to 2003 with this pick right here. And the pick I got for you guys is ROH Night of Champions 2003 from March 22nd of 2003. The main event for this show, you get Samoa Joe taking on the ROH World Champion Xavier. And for all you ROH historians, you know, this would be the start of Samoa Joe's legendary career with the ROH World title. Samoa Joe ended up picking up the win to become the third man to hold the ROH World title. But during this time, Samoa Joe was a part of Steve Corino's faction, The Group, and Xavier was a part of Christopher Daniels' faction, The Prophecy. And The Prophecy and The Group, they were in the middle of their little ongoing feud, but Samoa Joe would end up picking up the win and would hold the ROH World title for nearly 2 years. A legendary run. I don't think anybody has held the ROH World title as long as Samoa Joe did. But also on this card, you get Raven and Colt Cabana taking on CM Punk and Ace Steel. Now, during this time, this was in the middle of the Raven CM Punk feud. CM Punk had beat Raven, I believe, like a week or two before, and this was, like I said, this was in the middle of their feud. Colt Cabana would end up turning on Raven and joining CM Punk and Ace Steel. But I love the CM Punk Raven feud during this time of 2003. But also on this card, you get Low Key taking on Jody Fleiss. You get a great tag match for the ROH tag titles. You get the ROH Tag Team Champions AJ Styles and the Amazing Red with Alexis Lurie, aka Mickie James, taking on Jay and Mark Briscoe. Great match you should go check out. Also, you get the Carnage Crew taking on Mace and Hot Stuff Hernandez. Homicide and the Hit Squad taking on Samoa Joe, C.W. Anderson, and Jack Victory. Also, you get a #1 Contenders Trophy in FWA title match. You get Christopher Daniels, who was the FWA title. Now, the FWA title was a part of a British wrestling promotion, Frontier Wrestling Alliance, and ROH and the Frontier Wrestling Alliance, they had like a relationship deal going on at the time. Doug Williams would end up picking up the win and winning the FWA title back. Great match. Also, you get the Backseat Boys taking on Dunn and Marcos, the Ring Crew Express. You get the SAT and Quiet Storm taking on members of Special K. Also, you get BJ Whitmer taking on Dixie, taking on Matt Striker, taking on Alex Arion in a 4-way match. Definitely a great show from the early years of Ring of Honor. One you should have in your collection. If you're a Samoa Joe fan and you want to dig back into his history from the early days, this will be a good one to have in your collection. So let's see what else I got in today's picks for you guys. Alright, you guys, this next DVD pick is for all you classic ECW fans. And this pick I got for you guys it's definitely an ECW classic and definitely a show that changed the game or changed the direction for ECW. And my pick is ECW The Night the Line Was Crossed from 1994. Of course, the main event for this show, you get the first ever three-way match between Sabu versus Shane Douglas versus Terry Funk. Terry Funk at this time was the ECW World Heavyweight Champion. I believe this is the first ever three-way match in America. I believe they had three-way matches going on in Japan, but in America before 1994 this didn't exist. So this was kind of a new concept. Nobody had ever heard or seen of a three-way dance ever before this match. But this match right here, it would go 60 minutes long, and it was a wild brawl. So Terry Funk, he kept the ECW title, but man, this right here, this changed the game. A lot of people were talking about this match right here. You know, classic ECW stuff. And during this time, this was early 1994, so they were still Eastern Championship Wrestling, but later on in the year, Eastern would become Extreme. But also on this card, you get JT Smith taking on one of my all-time favorites, Mike Awesome. JT Smith would get a shocking upset over Mike Awesome, and then after the match, Mike Awesome would attack, I believe, the referee, and he was attempting to powerbomb the referee, and I believe the top rope would break. But still, great matchup. JT Smith picks up the win. Also on this card, you get the original Sheik, Sabu's uncle, and Pat Tanaka taking on Kevin Sullivan and the Tasmaniac. The Sheik, he would end up shooting a fireball into the Tasmaniac. And, of course, Sheik and Pat Tanaka would end up picking up the win. But also on the card, you get Jimmy Snuka taking on Tommy Dreamer. And I believe Snuka, he ended up having to do the Snuka splash or the Superfly splash a couple of times during this match. And he would end up picking up the win. But then after the match, he kept on doing the Superfly splash on the Dreamer. And Dreamer was coughing up blood. And Commissioner Todd Gordon would have to come ringside to stop Snuka. Also, you get one of my all-time favorites. You get the Public Enemy taking on the Bruise Brothers, better known as Ron and Don Harris. It was a no-rules match. Classic ECW stuff. Public Enemy will end up picking up the win. Also, you get the Sandman and Tommy Cairo taking on Pitbull and the Rockin' Rebel. You get Sal Bellomo taking on Mr. Hughes, and also you get 911 taking on Chad Austin. But man, classic show. But the one probably everyone remembers is the main event. You get the first ever three-way match between Sabu and Shane Douglas and Terry Funk. A legendary match and a legendary show you should have in your collection. Alright, you guys, this next DVD is one of my all-time favorite Ring of Honor shows, and it's one of my all-time favorite Ring of Honor Final Battle shows. And that show I'm talking about is Final Battle 2004. This is the third Final Battle show in Ring of Honor history. The big main event for the card, you get Austin Aries taking on the ROH World Champion Samoa Joe. Now, this ROH Final Battle show took place in December of 2004. Samoa Joe had won the ROH World title in March of 2003 at Night of Champions, where he defeated Xavier. So, Samoa Joe had been the ROH World Champion close to 2 years at this point in time. Austin Aries picking up a shocking win that shocked the wrestling world at the time to become the ROH World Champion, because at that point in time it seems Samoa Joe was unstoppable. Nobody could beat him, but Austin Aries was the man to do it. And also on this show, Austin Aries would kick Alex Shelley out of Generation Now, and Austin Aries would become the leader of Generation Now. But also on this card, you get some other classic matches. You get Low-Key taking on Bryan Danielson, Steve Corino and CM Punk taking on the Generation Next members of Roderick Strong and Alex Shelley. Jay Lethal takes on Prince Nana's Weapon of Mass Destruction. Also, we get a confrontation between Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Mick Foley. During this time, Mick Foley was not in the WWE. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, he was not affiliated with WWE during this time. But man, you get some other great matches on this cards. Jimmy Jacobs taking on Trent Acid, Deranged and Lacey taking on Angel Dust and the beautiful Becky Bayless. We get Jimmy Rave taking on the ROH Pure Champion John Walters. We get Dan Moff and BJ Whitmer taking on the Carnage Crew in a fight without honor. Classic show. Like I said, one of my all-time favorite Ring of Honor shows and Final Battle shows. And if you want to get into some early Ring of Honor, this is definitely one you should have in your collection. Alright, you guys, this next pick is for all you classic WWF new generation mid-90s fans. This is one of my favorites that I have in my collection, and I think you guys are going to love it when I show it to you guys. But the pick that I recommend you guys having in your collection if you're a mid-90s WWF fan, and that is the 1995 WWF Superstars Complete Series Blu-ray. Now you might be asking yourself, where can you get this? I didn't pick this up at Walmart or Target. I picked this up, I believe, off of a seller on eBay. And you might be asking yourself, you know, what's the name of the seller? Well, there's a lot of people out there, and I highly recommend checking out eBay, Etsy, Macari, sites like that. You might could find somebody who's selling one of these, you know, custom-made Blu-ray collections. But man, this has been a great nostalgic trip for me because I was definitely a big fan of the WWF during this time. Now, I know 1995 WWF, it gets a lot of criticism for being one of the worst years for the WWF, but man, I know there's people out there that love this year and love this era, the new generation era, but man, I've loved every single episode. This little set right here, I mean, look at the design. I mean, that looks professional, and just check out what it looks like on the inside. Look at that. That's pretty sweet right here. But man, what was going on in 1995? Big Daddy Cool Diesel, he was the WWF champion for a good majority of the year. But during this time in 95, I mean, Ted DiBiase's $1 Million Corporation, they were the big stable at the time. You had Bret Hart, Hakushi, Duke the Dumpster Droese, John Paul, Lafitte, the Pirate, he was there. 1, 2, 3 Kid. Some other notable events that happened in 1995, we would see the heel turn of Men on a Mission. Mabel would later go on to win the King of the Ring that year. We would see the heel turn of the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. Also, we would see in fall of 1995, Monday Nitro would start on TNT. So, you know, the WWF, they were, you know, kind of you know, slacking in the ratings during the later half of 1995. You know, we would see Lex Luger jump ship to WCW during that time in 95. Let's say at Survivor Series 95, Bret Hart would win back the title against Diesel. Bret Hart would end up then having a feud with his brother-in-law, the British Bulldog. Yokozuna and Owen Hart, they were the tag team champions during this year. I know I'm going on and on, but man, if you love classic mid-90s WWF from the new generation era and you want to relive your childhood, you would definitely want to have something like this in your collection, and that is the WWF 1995 Superstars collection. Like I said, you get every episode. Yeah, look for it. Alright, you guys, my final pick for my top 5 wrestling Blu-ray DVD picks from March 2024. It's dedicated to all you little stingers out there, and it's one of my all-time favorite Sting matches, but it's a match that he didn't win, and the match and the show that I'm talking about is WCW Super Brawl 3. The main event for this show, you get Sting taking on the WCW World Champion Big Van Vader in a White Castle of Fear strap match. And this match right here, it's one of my all-time favorite Sting matches, and it's one of my all-time favorite strap matches. It's brutal, it's bloody, and it's definitely one you should check out. And I know 1993 tends to be, or it tends to look as a down year for wrestling, which it was, but man, this is one of the most notable matches from that year, and definitely one you should check out. But man, you get a ton of other classic matches on this card. You get another one of my all-time favorites, Japanese legend, the Great Muta, who at this time was the NWA World Champion, taking on another one of my all-time favorites, Barry Windham. They have a great match. Windham ends up picking up the win, and there's a moment at the end of the match where Windham's getting the NWA title put back on him, and he turns around, and it's the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Nature Boy Ric Flair will end up making his return to WCW during this time. He had spent like what, a year in the WWF during this time. So Nature Boy Ric Flair, he's back in WCW, and Windham and Flair, they would have a feud later on in '93. But also on the card you get Dustin Rhodes taking on Max Payne. I believe Dustin Rhodes was the U.S. champion during this time. Also, you get an interesting match. You get the Rock and Roll Express taking on the Heavenly Bodies. This was both teams were affiliated with Jim Cornette Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And I believe Jim Cornette, when he was coming into the promotion during this time, they were going to have like a Smoky Mountain versus WCW angle. But Cornette kind of said some bad things on air about WCW and the higher-ups at Turner. They kind of nixed the whole angle. So they just had this one-off match at Super Brawl 3. But a great match and two great teams. Also, you get another classic. You get Cactus Jack taking on Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Also, we would see the debut of the legendary British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith taking on Wild Bill Irwin in a really quick, short match. Davey Boy Smith would go on to have a great year in WCW in 1993. Also, we get the Hollywood Blondes, the legendary Hollywood Blondes. We would get Steve Austin and Brian Pillman taking on Eric Watts and Marcus Alexander Bagwell. This was the Hollywood Blondes' first pay-per-view of 1993. Their first ever pay-per-view as a team. Blondes would end up picking up the win. And also, you would get a great 20-minute match with Tuco Scorpio and Chris Benoit, where Tuco Scorpio would end up get the win on Chris Benoit like a second before the time was going to run out. Great match and a great card that you should definitely check out. I picked this up from a great seller on Etsy. I believe the name of his Etsy page is called Wrestling Collections. He's got a great Blu-ray selection of classic WCW and WWF pay-per-views. But man, Super Brawl 3 definitely one you should check out and have in your collection. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to give this video a like, comment, subscribe to my channel. Links to my Twitter, my Instagram in the description box below. And go back and check out my past videos. But guys, thank you so much for always coming back to my channel. Thank you guys for always checking out my videos. And more importantly, thank you for your support. But until next time, I'm Jammin' Music Man, and I will see you guys all in the next video.